Good morning from New York City. Everyone is talking about AI these days, but AI is not a new theory. I will take us back to its genesis as it informs its exponential growth and impact in our lives. To do this, I will use some material with kind permission from the Columbia University School of Engineering, the Columbia Business School, and the Digital Insurer. The concept of giving computers the ability to do tasks that traditionally only humans have been able to do goes back in the US to the 1950s. There are two main approaches to AI. First, rule-based intelligence, what we also call expert systems, and those have been around and used by most of our companies. Basically, we determine the rules and program them in our systems. These are static. These are deterministic. The second approach is machine learning, which emulates the way our brains make decisions by observing the world around us, processing that information and deriving a logic through which we process similar information in the future, and a logic which we refine as our world around us gives us additional or different information. This is what computers do as well. We show the computer lots of examples of inputs and outputs, and have the computer learn the relationship between those inputs and outputs automatically. Frank Rosenblatt is sometimes called the father of deep learning for his pioneering work on artificial neural networks and the invention of the perceptron in 1958. This was essentially the first computer that could learn new skills by trial and error using a type of neural network that simulates human thought process. This is how the perceptron solved simple classification problems. So let's take a simple example. Let's see how the perceptron distinguishes between X's and check marks. First, you digitize the images in a grid, and then you input the digital information into the perceptron, the machine. For example, here in a 3x3 matrix, each of the 9 cells has a value depending on how dark the image is in that cell. In this example, let's take the first digitized image, the check. The first time around, the machine multiplies the inputs with a set of weights, then processes them, sums them, and then you threshold the output. So randomly, right, the first time around randomly, let's set the benchmark to be everything positive is a check, everything negative is an X. And then the perceptron puts all the digitized images through this logic. Given that initial set of weights, you assign right or wrong to the output. And you see, it gets some right and some wrong. In the case of the check image we used, it got it wrong. So this is how the machine learns now. Based on the answers, the perceptron updates its weights to get closer to the correct answers. It starts tweaking the weights marginally so the end value turns positive. Small tweaks, otherwise it would always turn everything positive. This theory and the tool, the perceptron, existed in 1958, and it worked well for structured data, like the checks and the X's we saw, but did not so well with unstructured data, leading to what we call the first AI winter. Think of all the different positions and breeds of a cat or a dog. But Rosenblatt had suggested an idea for that as well, the multi-layer neural network, also known as deep learning. But this was beyond the engineering capabilities of that time. But the concept was there. After research on neural networks returned to the mainstream in the 1980s, new researchers started to study Rosenblatt's work again. So take this example where the end value leads us to the wrong answer. The process of back propagation allows us to adjust weights backwards through multiple layers of the neural network, allowing the deeper network to learn through this supervised process. Start by figuring out how changing the output layer weights will affect the result and what direction they need to move, and propagate back layer by layer. Working backwards, figure out how this layer of weights affect weight 16 and what direction these weights need to move. Figure out how these weights affect weights 12, 13, 14, and 15, and what direction they need to move. So basically using the chain rule of calculus to combine this and figure out how every weight must move. Summarizing this, Backpropagation is a simple way of calculus to train a multi-layer neural network by propagating backwards the effect of an error and appropriately adopting these weights everywhere in the network, also known as supervised learning. So with all these theories present 4 decades ago, what led to the second AI winter? There was not adequate computing power. Actually, there was also not enough data. So we need a lot of data and a lot of computing power to make these theories work. And hardware was key. This is where Jensen Huang and his company, NVIDIA, come in. NVIDIA's GPUs were invented for graphical processing, widely used in video games and overall graphics rendering in the late 1990s. CPUs that we've all been using have serial processing, suited for all tasks and especially for complex ones, whereas GPUs can run simpler calculations at scale in parallel. That's the key word, in parallel. GPT-4 has 1 trillion parameters. Multiplying weights with respective values can be done in parallel much faster in a GPU than in a CPU. So entering the new millennium, hardware innovation and data generated and saved via the explosion of digital communications led to what I call, and I quote Ernest Hemingway, gradually, then suddenly, which is exactly how exponential functions work. They compound. But if you start low, they take time. Human expectations tend to be linear. We get one thing, we stay content for some time, then we're ready for what is next. Exponentials work differently. Small numbers multiplying are still small, but once they reach a certain value, their growth is nothing short of spectacular. And this is what we're witnessing now across AI capital investments and a few other AI enablers. Let's take them one by one. Venture capital money started pouring in 2014. Let's now talk compounding. Look how investments looked in 2015, in 2016, in 2017. Turning to computing power, the graph shows calculations per second per dollar in a log scale. According to Moore's law, the number of transistors in an integrated circuit doubles about every 18 months. Following that, our ability to compute has grown 1 billion times in the last 30 years. 1 billion times more efficient. Astounding improvement. Our cars have not even become 10 times more efficient in the same span. Look where our computing power was in 2022 vis-a-vis where we were 10 years earlier in 2012. And look how insignificant today will look in 2032. This is the power of exponentials. Same story on the data side. With the advent of digital communications, the data we have available to train these models on is also growing exponentially. This is how the data has grown by 2013. The yellow bar signifying data captured digitally via smartphones and other applications. This slide is truncated. The graph just cannot fit elegantly in a PowerPoint. This is what the graph really looks like. Similar story on the size of the brains. We have exponentially larger models. In 2018, the model size was 100 million parameters. Following Moore's law today, it handles 1 trillion parameters. Bringing it all together, investments in AI is growing exponentially. We have a brain that is getting exponentially larger, which we can train with exponentially more data in exponentially faster computers. So things are happening and are happening fast. What we are experiencing today was further defined by the landmark 2017 research paper authored by 8 scientists at Google, developing a new deep learning architecture known as the transformer, the main architecture for LLMs. And that opened the way to multimodal Gen AI. Opened the way for us to generate text, audio, video, and even code. The whole Gen AI story started to scale when OpenAI launched ChatGPT 3.5 in October 2022. Today, OpenAI generates 100 million words per day, serving hundreds of million weekly active users, generating $2 billion in revenues. The latest ChatGPT is multimodal. You can interact with it with images, PDFs, files, websites, and the model is now integrated in most cloud services and applications. Amazing impact for such a relatively new company. Interestingly, in the last survey, it shows advertising and marketing getting the highest industry usage, where insurance the lowest. We will change that. Let's see some broad applications. So first off, the personal productivity will go up multifold. GenAI copilots like the Microsoft one on the top summarizes long documents, extract Excel insights, helps with their research, and the list goes on. On the marketing, content, and creative side, agencies will really need to work for their money now because visual content creation is widely available through apps like Adobe's Firefly, and simulation of train accidents, structural issues with warehouses, factories, natural disasters, all this simulation that can actually make it possible for insurance companies like us to prevent losses are possible now via the example you see right there at the corner with NVIDIA. And finally, multimodal generation AI converts text or speech to video and vice versa. So let me show you now an example of digital marketing very near and dear to my heart, which in fact shows how we can use Gen AI for humanity. So here it goes.
Big businesses and brands that suffered during the pandemic found their way back, but the smaller stores still suffer.
This lockdown has been a real tough phase of my life. I mean, I have seen bad days, but this was the worst.
Last year, we helped small businesses through Diwali. So this year, we decided to bring it back. Presenting not just a Cadbury ad. This Diwali, we helped hundreds of small businesses by making India's biggest brand ambassador be their brand ambassador.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले फैशन और एम्पोरियम से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। और फिर एम्पायर फुटवेयर, नाम तो सुना होगा ना? अपना स्टाइलिश चश्मा बगल वाले हेवन आई ऑप्टिशियन से ही लेना। सिद्धि विनायक इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स से लेटेस्ट स्मार्टफोन खरीदकर धमाकेदार सेल्फी पोस्ट करना।
क्या कर रहे हो? मीठा लाए कि नहीं?
लाए हो ना यार, अपने पास वाले रोशन किराना से। आप भी अपना मीठा वहीं से लेना।
We used machine learning to recreate Shah Rukh Khan's face and voice to take the local store names in the ads.
इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास वाले चॉइस ऑफ फैशन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। पास वाले आजकल फैशन से ही, रॉयल फैशन से ही, एनके क्लॉथ्स से ही, पास वाली लक्ष्मी कलेक्शन से ही कपड़ों की शॉपिंग करना। इस दिवाली आप भी ना अपने पास।
Different versions of the same ad with local store names were targeted as per the PIN code of the viewer, showing them only the nearby stores. But it is impossible to cover all the stores. So we gave the power to the people to create their own version of not just a Cadbury ad. Any small business owner could promote their stores through their own social media networks like WhatsApp forwards and other social media pages.
हमारे आसपास की जो दुकानें हैं, उनकी दिवाली भी तो मीठी होनी चाहिए।
Cadbury celebrations, not just a Cadbury ad.
Not just a Cadbury ad, iconic. I will not play the following video because in the interest of time, but let's talk on how multimodality will make not just text in LLMs sound human, but will also look human. So this is, I guess, my plug for Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn and Digital Twins. He has created Reid AI. Reid AI has basically read or has gone through and ingested all the books and a lot of the presentations and logic of Reid Hoffman. And he does in this video that please find it on LinkedIn. They really converse together very, very nicely. So if you are to follow anyone on LinkedIn, It might just as well be its founder. Read and Read AI posts fascinating things regularly. So let me skip that video and talk a little bit about where insurance is in all this. Whether it's customer journeys or the company's value chain, insurance is being revolutionized by the AI capabilities. We have use cases in claims, service, sales, even writing code. At Prudential, we are embracing LLMs for customer service, machine learning for product recommendations, and robust optimization algorithms for financial wellness. Starting with service, with natural language processing and deep learning algorithms that learn the structure of a language. In this case, it's Bahasa in Indonesia, translated for you in English, and the AI conversational assistant on WhatsApp. Not only we can take care of all requests, like give me the status of my claim, get me my personal contract, let me pay my premium, but we can also offer service to sales capabilities where you can move from self-service to talk to an agent and or buy a policy online. Digital people on the right, combining animation technology with large language models for a highly personalized and empathetic digital experience that not only sounds human, but also looks human, are the new frontier and getting a lot of traction in service. In insurance, we are in the business of keeping the promise of covering a loss. With the latest innovations, we can also be in the business of preventing the loss and help our customers live longer, healthier lives. We know that consumers benefit from solutions that improve their physical, mental, and financial wellness. It is expensive to recover from poor health, and poor financials can lead to mental and physical sickness. The idea is to use a total wellness app to monitor physical activity, measure steps and heart rate via smartwatches and smartphone apps, and to change behavior through incentives and goals, making people be healthier and more protected. Same concept applies to financial health. Know where you stand vis-a-vis your financial goals, receive personal recommendations to achieve your goals, and be rewarded for making the necessary actions. So let me double click on financial wellness. Advanced optimization algorithms allow us to pull consumers in a segment of one, yourself, where the guidance is not just personalized, it's individualized. Take, for example, a family of 3 in Brazil with a variety of goals: savings, paying off debt, affording private education for the child, saving for retirement. Who can actually give them dynamically changing and very actionable recommendations? How much can you spend and on what? Which debt do you pay off first? How much do you put aside for retirement? When will you be able to retire? When can you upgrade your car or take that expensive vacation? Take a look at this concept we're currently incubating called Flow.
Flow is unique in the market, offering multi-period optimization that allows for individualized, action-oriented dynamic planning. It optimizes across savings, investments, lending, and insurance decisions to create a dynamic plan that allows consumers to make the best financial decisions in the context of their ever-changing life goals.
In closing, I would be remiss to not mention the need for responsible and ethical AI. With guardrails and proper governance, AI is just as good as our data, just as good as we are. And this reminds me of something my 5th grade teacher in Athens, Greece, said about the 3 great Greek tragedians of Athens' golden era in 5th century BC. Euripides, Sophocles, and Aeschylus shaped drama and theater to this day. While they were contemporaries, they had distinctly different views of the world. Euripides was the realist, portraying things as they are. His protagonists were flawed with their limitations and biases, similar to AI's current inherent biases and hallucinations. Sophocles depicted things as they should be, following the human law, responsible, ethical, a bit like how we want AI to function, within guardrails and with governance. And Aeschylus, on the other hand, showed the world as it should have been, governed and sometimes saved by divine intervention, his famous contraption being that of a crane, lowering the actor depicting the god, descending from above to save the day, and bring us mortals closer to divinity. Famously known as apomikhanis theos in Greek, Deus ex machina in Latin, or the god via the machine in modern English. Could Aeschylus have gotten it right 3,000 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful way to finish that presentation as well. Brought it all back together again. One quick question for you, if I may.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I cannot hear you.
Bear with me. Niki, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Excellent. I was saying that's a wonderful way for you to round up that presentation there. Brought it together beautifully. One question for you, if I can, quite quickly. And you're clearly very, very passionate about sort of the use of AI within your platforms. So many exciting changes, so many exciting programs. But for you, are we really only just scratching the surface of really finding the potential value when it comes to the consumers facing it and using it and seeing the potential of it? Do you feel we're only just scratching that surface?
We're definitely scratching the surface, and let me quote Bill Gates. Bill Gates said that sometimes we're overestimating the impact of AI in the short term and underestimating it in the long term, which goes a little bit contrary to what you said. But definitely, I think some people think, oh my God, this is going to revolutionize in the short term, but they don't see the impact in the longer term. I think in insurance, especially in my industry, we're underutilizing it today. As I said, it's used for product recommendations, it's used for individual performance, it's used for service. I think there can be more use cases. There can be more use cases in claims. There can be more use cases in underwriting, and I do think also in sales. But the main impact will come in the future. And if you see the exponential growth I was talking about, this is what is scary. This is what making OpenAI founders pause and publish some thoughts on how scary this can become. It's because of the exponential growth. We cannot even see where computing power will take this.
Absolutely, and that ties in with your final point about responsible use and privacy and so forth. Do you feel we're addressing that the right way at the moment as an industry to make sure that we are doing things in a responsible and sensible way when you're almost trying to balance the speed of progress, which is, as you say, extraordinary, with all of the other concerns as well? Are we getting that balance right for you?
For our industry, I can talk about, and I can say, well, we're almost overcorrecting, right? We're putting, in some cases, guardrails and governance and hiring people before we even have the Gen AI applications live. So, I mean, to your point, are we taking advantage of it? What we see today is we're scratching the surface. We may be being overly cautious, and that impedes the implementation and the adoption of these strategies in the short term. So I would say more applications. Let's move forward. And as we build these use cases, let governance go hand in hand and not impede the process and the progress.
Absolutely, Niki. And what excites me most is we could have this conversation this time next year, and the progress between then and now would be extraordinary. But Niki, thank you so much for your time. A wonderful way to kick off the show here. Thank you for joining us here at FinTech Live New York.
Thank you very much.
An absolute pleasure.